just imagine, 1789, just go back just a few hundred years. There wasn't anything here, I mean, in this country. And Sir Christopher Wren, I think, that designed St. Paul's Cathedral is buried there, and there's a little plaque there, and it says, if you seek my monument, look about you. Well, I say, in America, if you seek America's monument, look about you. This country has all come about in a few hundred years. We had less than 4 million people, when we became a country. China had 300 million people at that time. Europe had about 75 million. They were just as smart as we were. They worked just as hard as we did. They had natural resources that were similar to ours. And yet we ended up with a quarter of the world's GDP, a few hundred years later. Now, we've got something that works, and we don't want to mess that up. We want to figure out what we do with this abundance better as we go along. But you don't have to worry about the system working. But you will have periodic recessions, and you will have an occasional panic brought on by something that who knows where it comes from. The thing to remember at that time, I wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times in the fall of 2008, and I said, the country will come back. It'll go through a big recession and everything, but it'll come back, and it's coming back. So, but it's always been fun, and there's a company here in Washington called Geico, and I first got exposed to that in 1950. I was 20 years, I was 19 years old, well, I was 51, I'm sorry. I was 20 years old, and I came down here, and I came down on a Saturday because I'd learned that my professor who I worshiped at Columbia named Ben Graham was the chairman. I got down here and the door was locked. When I went to the building, because it was Saturday, and I pounded on the door, and some janitor let me in, and a marvelous fellow named Lorimer Davidson spent 4 hours with me teaching me all about insurance, and he helped me so much in life. But you're going to get helped by some wonderful people in life. It's a great thing to remember later on when you get to be my age, that all the help you've received from different people, because nobody does it alone. Obama got in trouble when he said that in the campaign, that nobody does it by themselves. Nobody does do it by themselves. We all sit in the shade of trees that were planted by others. So it's obligatory, I think, to plant a few trees ourselves if we've had good luck. It's been a great ride, but it's not over. If you've read Adam Smith and The Specialization of Labor, you know that if you're good at one thing, you're not necessarily good at another. You ought to get the person, you ought to use your talents where they're most useful, and get other people to give their talents. So, when my wife had babies, I went to an obstetrician. I didn't deliver myself. When I get a toothache, I go to a dentist. So I wanted to go to people who were very good at giving away money, and who were younger, energetic, smart, and had the same objectives in philanthropy that I did. And the basic principle of the Gates Foundation is that every human life has equal value. And if you start with that as your basic assumption, then a lot of things flow from that. And Bill and Melinda, as well as my children, because I have foundations for each one of my three children that are of significant size, and you can read the letters I wrote them up on the Berkshire Hathaway website. I do not direct them to do anything, but I do tell them to swing for the fences. I tell them if they succeed at everything they do in philanthropy, they're doing the wrong things, because the important things are the tough ones, and you're going to fail in some of those. But I have got much younger people, very energetic people, common objectives, and they work for nothing. So that's not a bad deal, Brian.
that stretches the money a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the way I read it is that you require them to actually move the money out the other side. They
got to spend it. And when I die, all of the money has to be spent within 10 years after the estate is closed, because I do not think that I can pick out some little great-great-grandchild yet to be born, just because he has the right name of Buffett or she has the right name, and they will be the best custodians. There'll be plenty of philanthropists 50 years after I die to take care of the problems of 50 years, but I want the money to get spent promptly, and I don't believe in trying to control things from the grave. I like to think I can think outside the box, but thinking outside of that particular box. Since 1930, since I was born in 1930, real GDP per capita has increased 6 for 1. Just think of that, 6 for 1. You went centuries when nothing happened for people, and this country works. I consider the luckiest person on a probabilistic basis that ever lived is the baby that's born today in the United States. I mean, it is a fabulous country, and the market system works all kinds of things. But we do have to, in my view, we have to make sure that everybody participates to a reasonable degree. We don't want equality of results, but we also want a base level that's satisfactory for our people. The best investment I ever made, well, I bought a book in 1949 by a fellow named Ben Graham called The Intelligent Investor. I don't remember what I paid, but aside from what I paid for my 2 marriage licenses, that was the best investment I ever made. It's very important to have the right framework. You need to have an approach to investing that's sound. And Graham's approach is simple, but some people adopt to it, and which I did immediately, and most people don't. But if you have the right philosophy, you will find opportunities as you go through the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And frankly, you're most likely to find them when in periods like 5 years ago when we were having the panic. I mean, stocks sell at silly prices from time to time. Most stocks at one time or another sell at very silly prices. And it doesn't take a high IQ to figure out that they're cheap, but it does take a temperament that's willing to step up and actually act. I tell people, if they're going in the investment business, if you got 160 IQ, sell 30 points to somebody else because you won't need it. I mean, I figured out very early, you don't have to be that smart in this business, which is fortunate, but you do have to have the right temperament. And you have to be able to ignore what other people are saying and simply look at the facts and decide, is this stock which is selling at X worth 2X? And occasionally you'll find things like that. And when you don't find them, you don't do anything. So that's my generalized stock tip, no names.